Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome if this is your first time. This is Scott's Comics Retro Review, which stands for SCRR. I'm sorry, you can break it down to SCRR or SCRR, whichever way is easy for you to remember, because I know Scott's Comics Retro Review is a mouthful. Anyway, this video series that I'm doing is dedicated to people who want to get into comics, but they're not sure where to begin, or they're into comics and they haven't read the books that I'm currently reviewing. There is kind of a method to my madness that I'm going down the line, so if you go back and start with number one and work your way through, you can kind of see, I hope, the method to the madness that I'm going through. And I'm going to do Captain America now. Captain America happens to be my third favorite superhero. What I'm going to focus on, however, is specifically Jim Steranko's Captain America. There are others who have done a lot of great Captain America stories, and I'm going to get into those, but I did want to focus on Jim Steranko because Jim Steranko was in the comic book industry for a very short time in the late 60s, and in that short period of time, he's changed the industry phenomenally. I don't think there's anyone who's done that in such a short period of time, changed the industry as much as he has. In either case, I'm going to focus on him. I am going to do another video on Jim Steranko for something else that he worked on down the road. Let me give you a brief recap of Captain America, brief history of Captain America. Captain America started in 1941. It was March of 1941. Is the cover, the time that the cover says the first issue showed up for Timely Comics. And what that means is they used to make the comic books and stick them on the newsstand back then, and they would put a date on the comic, and they would generally do it 3 months in advance so that the comic wouldn't be pulled off right away, because magazines would have a date and it would have that week or that day or that month, and then the next month they would just pull it off the stands. So with comic books, they used to put 3 months in advance onto the newsstand, and it would sit there supposedly for 3 months. That was the whole idea behind it. So anyway, the very first Captain America issue was on December of 1940. Now this is kind of what the cover looked like. This is a remastered version of it. They redid the colors and everything, so they didn't have like gradations of this. That kind of coloring didn't exist. But here was Captain America, the first appearance. He had a triangular shield, and he was punching Hitler in the face, which was back then very unique. Captain America wasn't the very first patriotic superhero. However, it was the golden age. So comic books and superhero comic books in particular were exploding. And everyone was asking for, editors were asking for more and more. And when the first patriotic superhero showed up, they were asking for more. And he's a creation of Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. I'm definitely going to do more Jack Kirby videos. Not sure if I'm going to get to Joe Simon in particular, but Joe Simon was one of the Golden Age greats. He did some amazing things, and part of it was co-creating Captain America. And as a side note, the very first story that Stan Lee wrote was in Captain America Comics number 3. And he was like 14 or 15 at the time. And it was a prose story that starred Captain America. Because back then, due to postal regulations, when they mailed out the subscriptions, they had to have a prose story involved. So they had to have, in every issue, they had to have a prose story. And Stan wrote the one in Captain America number 3. That was his first published comic book writing. And in that also, he had Captain America throw his shield and return to him. So Stan Lee contributed that. If you've ever seen Captain America throw his shield and have it come back, that was thanks to Stan Lee, even though Stan Lee did not create the character. So what I wanted to talk about too was that in the Golden Age, after World War II, superhero comics started declining. They started going down in sales, and people were doing all kinds of different things. After the war, there were no more Nazis to fight, so Captain America started fighting communists, but sales kept dropping. In the last Golden Age, Captain America was in September of 1954. It was canceled. Then what happened was Marvel Comics was born through the efforts of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, among others. And in that, Stan did some pretty smart things as editor-in-chief and writer of the series, of the whole comics line. One of the things he would do is he would do what's known as a prototype. And he did a story in what's known as Strange Tales, which had Human Torch in it. It was Strange Tales number 114, and that was published in it had the cover date of November 1963. And in that, the Human Torch was fighting what appeared to be Captain America robbing banks. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but it wasn't Captain America. But in either case, because Captain America was in the book, the sales shot up, and Stan Lee saw that. And what he did was he reintroduced Captain America into the back then modern Marvel Comics, and that was in Avengers number 4, which had a cover date of March 1964. And that issue showed Captain America waking up, and it showed that he had been essentially stuck in a block of ice since the end of World War II. And he was in what they call suspended animation or cryogenic sleep, however you want to describe it. And then he turned out to still be popular. And back then, Marvel they couldn't publish that many books. So what they did was they would do what's known as split books that were published every other month. And there was a book called Tales of Suspense that featured Iron Man. And Captain America was split in that book, was put into that book, splitting it with Iron Man. So you would get sorry, I kicked the camera. You have Tales of Suspense with Iron Man in one of the features and Captain America in the other half of the book, which is a pretty smart idea. Eventually, when Tales of Suspense got to issue 100, Iron Man got his own book, and the book was renamed Captain America. So you have Captain America 100. Now, let me get into how I got into Captain America. My earliest memories of Captain America were from the cartoon TV series called the Marvel Action Hour, I believe it was called. I was very young. But it basically had Thor, Iron Man, Submariner, and Captain America. And what they did was they took comic books and they animated it. It was very, very limited animation. But that's what they did. And that was my first introduction to Captain America. Then I went out and started buying comic books. Now, when I started buying comic books, you had on the newsstand basically 2 Captain America books coming out. One was Captain America, and the other one was called Marvel Super Action. And I bought this off the stand. This actually has Captain America number 100 reprinted in it, and it allowed me to see the old Stan Lee, Jack Kirby books from back in the day. By the way, I don't have those issues anymore. I don't know if you could tell, but I've had to rebuy those issues as I've gone through. Not all Captain America, by the way, but I've had to go back and rebuy those issues. And it was through these that I came into my first contact with Jim Steranko and his Captain America. Now, the first one was actually number 12, and I was not able to buy that, to find that issue, because I guess people figure even though it's a reprint, it's the first Steranko reprint, so they bought it, and I haven't been able to find it. But in any case, this shows like the the style of Captain America. I was actually hooked on Jim Steranko from buying this. He was sort of trying to draw in Jack Kirby's style because Jack Kirby left the book and they needed a new artist, but he was also doing it in his own style. I mean, you can kind of see the dynamic behind it. And I believe, too, a lot of it had to do with Stan Lee wanting people to kind of mimic Jack Kirby a little bit. Not everybody did. But, I mean, look at the design that he used to do. Things like this, which didn't really exist back then. It was, basically straight-up comics. He did a lot of these little panels with the light and shading in there. It was just some amazing stuff to me. He's got an insert here, a panel insert into a bigger panel. He would do stuff like this all the time. And it basically changed the way people, created comics from the way he did it. And that's how I got introduced into Jim Steranko's Captain America. Now, I didn't go out and I kind of stopped searching for the Marvel Super Actions because Marvel eventually released these, the Essentials. And what I love about the Essentials is it was real cheap. Let me get that price up in there so you could see it. It was real cheap. See that price? And you got a lot of books in here. This says 103 to 126. And it included the Jim Sterankos that I'm missing. This is actually volume 2. Volume 1 is all I believe it's all Stan Lee and all Jack Kirby, but they could have had a couple in there. And this one was actually the very first issue that I was missing. It was Marvel Super Action number 12, which I'm missing. But this was my first introduction to Jim Steranko's Captain America. And look at that beautiful artwork. Stan Lee did the writing, and previously you'll hear that I've said Stan Lee is my most beloved writer in the Spider-Man review I did. But I mean, look at this artwork here. This is just beautiful. Look at back then I had no idea that Steve Rogers never smoked cigarettes, but he basically did it to show the light and the shadow here. I mean, look how phenomenal that is. Look at how he has him walking up. It's just amazing to me. You know, the Hulk comes busting through the wall. Steve Rogers rips off his clothes and he becomes Captain America. Look at how beautiful all of this is. So, and back then, by the way, I wasn't buying comic books for the writing. I was buying it for the artwork. And of course, I loved Captain America, so I was buying it, you know, Captain America just because I loved him. And I ended up with some beautiful artwork along with this. And again, I'm going to do other Captain America stories, but one of the things I love about these Essentials is you get to see the line work, and it looks a little bit different when you have the colors added to it, as you could see, but you get to see all the lines that were involved. And that's one of the reasons why I just love these Essentials. I know a lot of people don't like black and white, but I actually do. I happen to think it's great. And there's actually 3 issues that he did. This one I actually got too. That was number 14, which I also didn't get that, but I didn't bother because I ended up with this. So anyway, if you are interested in this, what I did find is Marvel has collected all these together, and it's called the Epic Collection, The Coming of the Falcon, which actually starts with Captain America number 100. It's the Epic Collection. It starts with Captain America number 100, whereas this one only starts with 103. Number 1 has 100 in it, but this starts with 103, and it goes until you have issue number 119, which has the first storyline of Falcon being introduced. By the way, I love the Falcon. I don't know if I'm going to do a video based on him, but I do love the Falcon. And this is the last issue in the Epic Collection. It's done on very nice paper, this is newsprint, and so's this, but it's done on high quality newspaper with the colors can really pop out, and it's recolored and remastered. And you get Gene Colan artwork in there, you get Johnny Romita artwork in there, you get of course Jim Steranko, and you get Captain America. So if you're interested, take a look at the link down below. It should be interesting. I think it's a great read. I highly recommend it. And if you like this video, please give it a like, thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification, and share it with people. You can write some comments down below in the section and let me know. But check out the description for you if you wanted to order this book. This is Scott's Comics Retro Review. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.